So I had a question from one of the members in my free private school community, Katia, and she had the question, which is, what happens if something doesn't go our way? What happens when something doesn't go as planned or expected? We have an expectation for an event, a situation, a relationship, and it just doesn't go our way. How do we bounce back from that, or how do we walk through that experience to bring ourselves out of that? Because when those situations happen, it changes our whole state. It brings us to a positive state and brings us to a negative state. And so whenever we have an event that brings us from a positive state to a negative state, that's a teacher moment. Because this specific event or situation is teaching you something. And so specifically, for instance, is I remember when I was in a relationship a few years ago with a woman who I deeply loved and deeply adored, and the relationship ended, and I was absolutely distraught. Absolutely distraught. Because, what was happening was I was externalizing my love, my validation, my self-worth. And I'm not saying this is for all the cases, but generally from what I've seen, from most of the cases, from people that I've helped in my own life, it comes down to we're seeking externally love, affection, happiness externally rather than giving ourselves that emotion. And so when that breakup happened, I was like, okay, now that source of love that I was getting, I was no longer getting because I wasn't giving it to myself. And so when we don't give ourselves a certain emotion and that emotion is taken out of our life, we're going to feel a lot of pain. And specifically, when an event doesn't go our way, we're going to feel a lot of pain. Because if we're assigning a lot of importance to a specific event to happen, and then it doesn't happen, it's going to be chaos. Because it's like, okay, say I'm expecting a job promotion, and this happened to me many years back when I was working in a corporate environment, and I didn't get that job promotion. And so specifically, I was super disappointed. I just felt distraught. It brought me down to this low state. And the reason why is I was attaching my job title to my self-worth. And so a lot of times we couple these external situations with how they go to our own self-worth. And so I didn't get the promotion, so I didn't feel worthy. And so if I don't feel worthy, that's going to drop me down to a low state. And so what happens when we're in low states is it totally changes our thinking. When we're in a low state, we have low vibrational thoughts. So thoughts that are very negative, they aren't optimistic, they're very pessimistic about the future. When something bad happens, we see the world through these, gray colored glasses. And so the aspect to learn is that there's something to learn from every single experience. And there's a silver lining in every single moment. And there's something to take away from every single situation. And for me, and this didn't come till quite a bit later during that experience where I didn't get that promotion, and I never figured it out until like a year or two later, and it was tied to my self-worth. So I'm like, it doesn't matter what happens or doesn't happen in my life. I'm worthy, I'm whole, I'm complete. I am giving myself the emotions that I am seeking from getting that external thing or having that thing happen or that relationship that you may want, because we're looking for that moment of love. All of us at the end of the day, we're looking for love, we're looking for happiness, we're looking for peace. But a lot of us have coupled those emotions with external experiences. And so a lot of us couple it with partners is a very common one, like I was saying before. You know, when that relationship ended, I felt like my self-worth and my love was gone because I wasn't giving it to myself. And so everything that negatively happens around us, it's there to teach us something. And so when I was in my darkest times, when I was going through the darkest situations, when I was deeply depressed, deeply anxious, deeply, consumed by ADHD, pain, all those different things, the thing that allows me to move forward now, whenever a situation that's bad that happens now, is that everything happens for me, not to me. And that's my mantra. And so I had a student ask me earlier this morning, because he's going through a really tough time. And he's like, I get the saying, everything happens for a reason. I get that cliche saying. But, the reality is he's looking at it at the surface. And so I had to explain to him, the bad situation that you're going through happens for a specific reason. And so then I walked him through different experiences that have happened in his life, where then he could realize, oh, this bad thing happened that happened 5 years ago. Look what happened because of that. Look at the growth. Look where you are now. Because if that bad thing didn't happen, you wouldn't be where you're at now. And so that same stuff has happened to me. And so it makes it a lot easier when we can look back on our life and be like, oh yeah, that relationship didn't work out. So I could step into my true power, find my self-love, find my self-validation, and step into that. Because if that didn't happen, I'd still be chasing for it externally in women, money, fancy things, whatever it may be, experiences. Because at the end of the day, us as humans, we're just searching for that feeling of love. Which way should I go? Let's go up. But we're all just searching for love. And so at the end of the day, if you have somebody that's going through something extremely difficult, you have to realize that there's a silver lining in every single moment to teach you something. And it's not fun to go through those moments because it's painful. It's a painful process to separate ourselves from something that we're relying on externally for happiness, validation, love, self-worth, all those different things. And so when we start to decouple ourselves, we start to bring the power back to ourselves. And we start to bring the power back to ourselves, it doesn't matter what's going on around us. It's like this tree here. This tree is very deeply rooted. So when the winds come and try to push it over, it's going to bend, but it's not going to snap. And so we have to become deeply rooted in ourselves, in our own essence, in our own being, who we are, really embody that, dig deeper, ground yourself deeper, dig deeper within yourself, grow those roots. So when those times that come to test you, you don't fall over, you don't break. Because you realize we have this deep well within us of bliss and love that we can tap into, and we don't have to wait for any event outside of us for it to happen. And that's the key of all this.